What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from the Token Minorities, and go ahead and smash that like button because it is time for the playoffs. We are here with round 1 of the NPL Season 6 playoffs, and your Toronto Raptors are facing the Detroit Butterfrees, coached by the man, the myth, the legend, Iron Flash Gaming. So definitely make sure to check out my opponent's channel if you haven't already done so for my first matchup against him this season. He is very, very skilled in the format, unarguably top 5, in my opinion top 2, maybe even the best right now. It's definitely arguable, but he is fantastic at the format. Definitely go give him a look if you do enjoy high quality draft battlers, and also make sure to check out his side of the battle, as we will be uploading this at the same time. I'll try to make sure to leave a link to that battle in the description below, but just in case I forget to do that, at least go check out his channel and see what he has to say about his side of this matchup. So let's take a look at this playoff picture here. So as you can see in front of you, my team, the Toronto Raptors, is the 4 seed in the Luxury Conference, so I was the last team in from my conference, which I'm not too happy about being the last team in, but hey, at least we made it this season, so that's a step up from last season at least. But definitely have some other very strong teams who made the playoffs from my conference, including Iron Flash Gaming, but also Magick and Togevoir, 3 very, very skilled battlers. And on the other side of the bracket, in the other conference, we have Aberforth and the Brisbane Braylums, another fellow TTM member. We have TrevCL and the Atlanta Braviaries, Top Tier Boy and the Florida for Alligators, and Gypsy King and the Sydney Sharpedos. So definitely a loaded playoff picture that we're looking at here in the upcoming weeks. And if I do manage to get past Iron Flash Gaming this week, there's a strong chance I'd have to play someone like Maddie Brolick next week. And then if I manage to get past Maddie Brolick, there's a strong chance I'd have to play someone like Gypsy King the following week. And that's just not a triple header you ever want to deal with. But we'll deal with those one step at a time, of course. But yeah, I just wanted to show you the bracket here really briefly before I jump into the team builder a little bit. So let's take a look at the drafts, as my opponent Iron Flash Gaming has Zygarde 50%, Mew, Volcanion, Thundy Eye, Cofagrigus, Roserade, Snorlax, Celesteela, Stunfisk, Mega Heracross, Silvally, which can take on any typing, and Kabutops as his full roster of 12. So he doesn't have a single slouch on his roster, and it's going to be a tough matchup, most definitely, as it's going to also be pretty volatile. I feel like my offensive mons are pretty hard for him to prepare for as well, or at least he only has limited ways to prepare for them, which does give me some ways to maybe build around that and try to exploit it. And that is something that I'm going to try to do with my building this week. As for a playoff battle, I do not build in my normal routine as I normally would. Normally throughout the season, I'll basically take the first or second idea that I might have for a specific counter and just use it. But for a playoff game, I do need to think several steps ahead, as I am playing against the best of the best in the NPL and the playoffs, and I do need to make sure that what I am bringing is not expected by my opponent, because if they expect exactly what I'm bringing, it's not going to work as well as I want it to. So I do want to bring some off-the-wall stuff in the playoffs. That's just what I do. That's what I kind of recommend you would do as well for your future playoff games, especially considering the fact that this is a rematch and I have already shown bits and pieces of what my primary strategy might be against him. But with that said, I will dive more into that when I get to the team builder. Let's take a look at some of the bigger threats on his team, as all 3 of the Z-eligible mons, being the Zygarde 50%, the Mew, and the Thundy Eye, are huge threats against my team, especially the Zygarde, as if you look down my roster, I don't have a single resistance to 1,000 arrows. That's a problem. That means that a banded Zygarde 50%, which I do think is the most likely set, can really tear a hole through my team, especially my defensive stuff, as that does easily 3-hit KO a defensive Ferrothorn, as well as do a lot of damage to things like Mandibuzz, Gastrodon, and really etc. It's able to do a lot of damage to my whole team, and that's a problem. And the biggest issue is that it's also naturally bulky enough to not be OHKO'd by really anything on my team that can outspeed it. The only thing that could possibly outspeed it and OHKO it is Mega Lopunny. He can easily run something like a Yache Berry, maybe Dragon Dance, and essentially just take advantage of me like that. So it's not a good matchup at all against the Zygarde 50%. Easily the biggest threat to me. Coupling that with the Volcanion, which is actually a big threat as well, as I did lose Latias, which was something I had for the last matchup I had against them, and Latias is obviously a very, very nice counter to Volcanion. I don't have that counter this time around, so I do have to deal with that a little bit more carefully as well. That said, thankfully I do have things along something like Gothitelle, which is able to trap specific threats that I'm not otherwise able to deal with, and I feel like that can definitely bail me out of tough situations. So Gothitelle being a real MVP for my draft once I picked that up in my trade with Togevoir a few weeks ago. So overall, definitely a tricky matchup. One strategy that I am terrified of, that I really think is coming, is Agility Pass from Mew into Mega Heracross. Is if you look down my roster, you can see it in front of you right now. What do I really have for that if the Mega Heracross has proper coverage for my team? I just lose. Honestly, I cannot beat Mega Heracross defensively. I can't even try. The only way I can maybe deal with it is hope he doesn't have Earthquake and run a bulky or Nidoking to make sure I can survive a Bullet Seed. Or I could run maybe something like a defensive Metagross, but then that's really not good against the rest of his team. So it's really tough to deal with something like that. So in my building, I will be keeping that potential strategy in mind, as I don't want to get 6-0'd, and quite honestly, if I'm not careful, Mew could lead off Click Agility, Baton Pass to Mega Heracross, and sweep me. So that's not something I want to let happen at all. But that's just some of the initial thoughts I had looking at the team overview. Let's just hop on over to the team builder so I can show you what I decided to bring and why. So as you can see, starting things off with the Mega Lopunny. Now Mega Lopunny is a mon that has a very weird matchup against his team, as he does have things like the Cofagrigus and the Mew especially, that both are able to naturally wall it out. They're essentially Smogon counters to Mega Lopunny, and they are able to wall me out without much trouble whatsoever. Cool. That said, Mew is essentially pressured into more of a hazard removing role on his team, I feel. It also might be one of his hazard setters, as he doesn't have too many of those either. And I really just, I think it's unlikely that he's going to bring a defensive Mew against form of Mega Lopunny, because he has a lot of other ways to bulk out hits from it, as he does have Celesteela, he does have the Zygarde, honestly, he also has the Cofagrigus, like I said before, all of which are able to naturally take hits from Mega Lopunny very well. That said, he does need a counter to Mega Lopunny on his roster, because if I bring something like Power Up Punch, or if I bring enough bulk with Ice Punch, maybe Quick Attack or something like that to help deal with the Zygarde, then he doesn't have many ways to revenge my Mega Lopunny, so he does need a counter to it. I think that counter will either be a defensive Mute, which I think is unlikely, or it will be a Cofagrigus with bulk investment, maybe a Rocky Helmet, but likely a bulky Cofagrigus with Psychic or Hidden Power fighting to help deal with the Mega Lopunny. That's my guess. I think that's coming. That said, we are going to take a little bit of an interesting approach to this team building, and we are going to put him in a double bind, in that I'm going to bring a Mega Lopunny set that does lose to Cofagrigus, kind of. It doesn't really lose to Cofagrigus, but it's not able to do damage to Cofagrigus after I lose my Scrappy, but I'm going to couple Mega Lopunny with a Pokemon that abuses Cofagrigus. Flat out abuses it. And I will show what that is here in a second, but talking about this Mega Lopunny set, Return, High Jump Kick, pretty standard attack to have on Mega Lopunny. Obviously, the best dual stab it can possibly run. It does hit his entire team very hard. It doesn't OHKO too many things on his team, but it is just very nice utility, potentially late game to help pick stuff off, but also just having Encore is really nice because of the potential of something like a Calm Mind Mew, a Bulk Up Mew, or Calm Mind Bulk Up anything, honestly, as well as potentially catching a Cofagrigus going for something that can't damage me, expecting me to switch out. For example, he could go for a Calm Mind, a Nasty Plot, he could go for, I don't know, a Rest, a Haze, something like that. I can Encore him into any of those, and if he's Encored, that gives me a free setup opportunity with something else on my team, potentially, depending on how the match is looking at the time. So Encore is really nice to help with the Cofagrigus, as well as deter other setup on his team, as Mega Lopunny is not at all essential for me to win this game, not at all, but it is a very nice lure for the Cofagrigus, as well as potentially, due to the moveset and how the workings of the rest of my team is, it should help me pick up a lot of damage against this team, if not several kills as well. So definitely a cool set against this team. Again, not a sweeper, but coupling it with the next mon being a sub Nasty Plot Mandibuzz, it is a very deadly combination for his team, as if you look down his roster, he has so little to deal with this sub Nasty Plot Mandibuzz. Offensive investment with the Dread Plate to make sure that I can have a very good chance to OHKO the most likely Thunderous Eye set after Stealth Rocks. That's why I have this much investment on it. But essentially this is going to be able to beat him down if a couple things happen. I need to weaken down the potential Snorlax with my two lures on my team, being the Nidoking and the Thundy T, which I'll show here in a little bit. I also need to weaken down the potential Celesteela, or at least put him in a range where I can hit him with an attack, take a physical attack from him, prog my weak armor, boost my speed by +2, and then take him out with a following attack and maybe sweep his team from there. Those are the two things that I really need to weaken down for this to be effective. I also would like to weaken down the Zygarde a little bit, just because that's also able to chew up a hit from this. But otherwise, this is solid, as it does outpace Mega Heracross. It outpaces most of his team. His team is very slow, and the odds of him having a solid option on his Mew to take on my Mandibuzz is kind of low, especially considering the fact that last time, I believe he only brought Taunt, Roost, Defog, and Psychic, so that would be nothing to hit the Mandibuzz at all. So I'm kind of hoping that's what he brings again, because that just gives me essentially a free Dark Pulse or a free Nasty Plot if he doesn't go for a Taunt against me. So Mandibuzz is very good against him offensively, and that's not something I can say too often. And if you've seen a set like this before, let me know in the comments below, but this is something that I've never tried before, and I think it could be really, really good. I'm excited to see how it does this game, but that deadly combination of the offensive Mandibuzz and the Mega Lopunny should be able to put in a lot of work against this team. And now next up is the Ferrothorn. Now this is essentially my dedicated response to Zygarde, but it also is a pseudo response to Thundee Eye. Those two really do pressure Ferrothorn a lot with this particular team build. I do have to play carefully around those two, but I do think I should be able to handle them well enough if I play the game properly. So this set, Aqua Berry, just to make sure I can take random fire attacks from the rest of his team and maybe get up Stealth Rocks and fire away Leech Seed and protect shenanigans, all that against the potential Zygarde, as well as be able to just help weaken down his fatter things on his team, like the Celestia, like even the Volcanion, as if he is not a Life Orb Volcanion or better, I should be able to take a fire attack from Volcanion because of my Aqua Berry, and that would allow me to get up a Leech Seed, protect, and start wearing him down into range of things like my Mega Lopunny, as well as wear him down into range of things like my Mandibuzz. So this again is just helping chip away for the other mons on my team, and in general just help me not lose to Zygarde, although like I said, I really don't have much for Zygarde at all, so this is one of the best ways I can handle it for this particular matchup. Now next up is the Nidoking. Like I said before, this is somewhat of a lure for the Snorlax, although somewhat of an obvious one. I feel Superpower Nidoking is very obvious in this matchup, but even so, it is essential because I do need to be able to weaken it down, and if he doesn't bring recovery on the Snorlax, then Superpower will do a clean 50%, and it'll be at least 50%, maybe even more, which is probably enough for Mandibuzz to be able to deal with it at +2. So, not the Mandibuzz can OHKO at +2 or take it out at +2, but with 2 hits it should be able to from that range. So, that's pretty useful there. Ice Beam for the Zygarde, Fire Blast for the Celesteela, and Earth Power to generally hit the rest of his team very hard. Now, this is on a Shuka Berry. This is going to be my best way to check and Agility pass into Mega Heracross, as long as he has both Mew and Mega Heracross alive, Nidoking will not see the field until Mega Heracross has been Baton Passed to, or until I know all of Mew's moveset. So that's how scared I am of that combination. I really have so little for it, and Nidoking can take any one hit, fire off a Fire Blast. It may not OHKO the Mega Heracross, but due to the combination of that and other mons on my team, I should be able to take it out, especially considering I do have the priority on the Mega Lopunny, and maybe I can lure in the close combat as well to weaken him down with Iron Barbs from Ferrothorn. And just in general, I think I should be able to damage it on switch in, especially because Mew would be agility passing and therefore taking some damage on the incoming Mega Heracross. So that's the idea with that. Fire Blast, again, not an OHKO. It'll do about 60 to 70% to a standard Mega Heracross spread, or if he is, or that's if he's max HP, I think. And if he's more of a less of a bulky Heracross, then it'll do a lot more. I will need less chip damage, etc. But that's generally the idea with the Nidoking, and that's all there really is to say on that. So next up is the Thundee T. This is my dedicated lead in this matchup, as Taunt will ensure that Mew cannot set up Stealth Rocks turn 1, or anything on his team can set up Stealth Rocks on turn 1, as his entire team, I believe his entire team bar Thunderous Eye is outsped by Thundee T, so that's pretty cool. Pretty much ensures that rocks will not go up on turn 1. Electream Z Thunderbolt is really nice against his team. It punishes all of his major switch-ins, being things like the Snorlax, and I guess the Roserade to an extent if he runs a bulkier set, but if it's bulky, it's going to shrug it off anyways. But even so, it's mainly there to punish the incoming Snorlax, as I do really think Snorlax is coming. Also, if he decides to leave Mew in against this, it'll take a clean, like, 80 from this. So that's if he's not, like, fully specially defensive, obviously. But if he's just a standard bulkier Mew, maybe a defensive Mew, then it'll take a lot from a Gigavolt Havoc plus another Thunderbolt. I think it'll even take it out. I might have to taunt it depending on the rolls. But even so, it's really, really good against that. Just in general, it helps breaking him down. Focus Blast, of course, to help me break down the Snorlax as well, making Mandibuzz's job easier later in the game. So this whole team is going back to trying to win with Mandibuzz plus Mega Lopunny. That's all I'm trying to do. If I pull it off, cool. If I don't, hey, at least we tried a meme and it almost worked, so it's okay. Next up is the Gothitelle. This is a Choice Scarf Gothitelle designed to outpace his Fundy Eye by 1 point. Basically just to get rid of the big threats, like Volcanion, helps me get rid of Mega Heracross if he doesn't speed pass into it, and I can trick things like the Mew if it's not holding a Z Crystal. I can also trick the Cofagrigus if I need to. I can trick really anything that's trying to be a setup threat against my team. I can also just do a lot of damage to him overall with a combination of Psychic, Thunderbolt, and Foul Play. So this is really the glue to this team. This is what's going to eliminate the big offensive threats that my team is really could struggle against, as my team is so geared toward making something as specific as Nasty Plot Mega Mandibuzz is about what I was about to say, but it's geared toward making the Nasty Plot Mandibuzz work, so I do need to get rid of certain offensive threats that otherwise could be an issue in pulling off that sweep. So that is the team I decided to bring this week. Definitely a unique build. We'll see how it goes. I don't think it's necessarily the strongest possible build I could bring against him, but it's just weird enough, just off the wall enough that I think it actually could work against his team, as I really don't think he's going to expect to see a Nasty Plot Mandibuzz, and it's actually pretty effective against him at that. So let's just go ahead and hop on over to the battle, and let's see what he decided to bring, as he did bring the Mew, Fundy Eye, Cofagrigus, Roserade, Zygarde 50%, and the Snorlax. So first things first, there is no Mega Heracross on my screen, which is a huge relief, as now Nidoking is not pressured nearly as much. It can actually just come out against, well, I guess it doesn't really come out against too much based upon what he brought, but it is pretty good against the Roserade potentially, if it is not an offensive Roserade. It can also potentially come out against the Fundy Eye if it is not a Life Orb variant as Psychic. I don't think an Okomi unless he has Life Orb. And it's okay against the Zygarde as well because of my Shuka Berry. I might be able to lure him in with that, but we'll just kind of see what happens there. So, because there is no Mega Heracross, like I said, the Nidoking is freed up a lot more. It also means that my Gothitelle doesn't really have to be saved to deal with Mega Heracross either. I can trap things maybe like his Roserade, I can trap potentially his Mew, and I could even trick the Snorlax with my Gothitelle as well. So a lot of potential Gothitelle food here. I also might be able to get rid of the Thundurus with Gothitelle, which could be really important here later on in the game as well. So Gothitelle's looking pretty good. Fundy T also looking very, very strong, as I did expect going into this game. His only thing that probably outspeeds it is his own Thundurus, and everything else on his team does most likely take a lot of damage from it, but you'll just kind of see what happens on that. Mandibuzz, of course, is looking great because he did bring the Cofagrigus, so despite the fact that my Mega Lopunny is not going to be quite as strong until Koff is gone, Mandibuzz can definitely win this game if I play it well. It's just going to be a matter of somehow landing that weak armor boost. It's really hard to do. I needed to get it against maybe the Snorlax, maybe a physical Mew, maybe even a physical Thundurus, catching him go for a U-turn or something. So it's going to be tricky to get that weak armor boost, but if I can get the boost as well as a +2 from Nasty Plot, we might be able to win this game with Mandibuzz, but I do need to weaken down the Zygarde, the Snorlax, and I need to get at least Stealth Rock damage on the Thundurus, and then we can do it. So let's see if we can pull this off. Let's jump into the game. My best lead is definitely my Thundurus. As I said, it is a dedicated lead. It prevents Stealth Rocks, and nothing on his team really can immediately threaten me either. So let's go ahead and jump right on into this. As he does decide to lead off with his Mew, as I lead off with the Thundurus, I'm going to go straight for the taunt, preventing any form of Stealth Rocks, and or any form of hazards, and that's exactly what he does. He goes for the Stealth Rock, as now he's going to switch hard into his Roserade as I go for the Electrium Z boost Thunderbolt, and I do a clean 46%. That is a bulky Roserade, and it still took 45% from that attack. That's ridiculously powerful. But here I'm going to go straight into my Gothitelle to try to trap the Roserade. Now we'll pause here briefly, as now there is a strong chance that he is a Pyapa Berry Roserade, because it makes a lot of sense to switch Roserade hard into Thundurus if you're expecting me to either not have Psychic, or if you have a way to deal with the potential Psychic. So hard switching into Thundurus was kind of hinting toward the fact that he might be Pyapa. That said, if he was Pyapa, I was okay with letting Gothitelle get weakened in order to take this thing out in a couple hits, as if I can get rid of Roserade, that makes my Thundurus' job way easier later in the game, as well as because it was able to chew up that Gigavolt Havoc so well, that means I can actually chew my Hidden Power Ices really well too. and that just makes this a little bit of an annoyance for my Thundurus to deal with. That said, I'm going to go for the Psychic anyways, as even if he is a Shed Shell variant and goes into his Mew, the worst case scenario is he just gets up the Stealth Rocks, which really aren't detrimental against my team, but obviously they're nice for him. But even so, I was more willing to go for the Psychic here, as I really wanted to get rid of the Roserade if I could. So he does reveal to actually be the Shed Shell, which kind of sucks. It's going to go into his Mew and take approximately 0, but he does reveal to not be Leftovers Mew, so that means he's probably going to be a Z Crystal, and that's something I need to keep in mind here as I go hard into my Mandibuzz, basically to bluff the Defog, as I'm going to actually go straight for the Dark Pulse and do a chunk to this Mew, 51% to this Mew. Now here, I have a couple potential plays. I could stay in and go for another Dark Pulse and try to take this thing out, as he did go for Fire Blast on that turn, but that damage did reveal to be more of an offensive variant, meaning that it's very likely that he has something to hit my Mandibuzz. I really think he has something to hit my Mandibuzz. Who would bring an offensive Mew without something to do damage to Mandibuzz? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually expecting him to go for something like a Thunderbolt here, if not just another Fire Blast, but more likely go for a Thunderbolt or double into his Thundurus here on this turn, as Thundurus is a pretty good switch into this. It does gain him a little bit of momentum against my team, especially if it's more of a Life Orb variant, as just looking at my team, he should be able to do a lot of work to everything on my roster. So I am going to go hard into my Mega Lopunny here against this Mew, as the worst case scenario I feel is he's going to go for a Thunderbolt, and that'll only do, you know, a little under 50% to me, as my Mega Lopunny does have a little bit of bulk on it, and Mew, quite honestly, is only base 100 special attack. It's not going to do that much damage to me, and I just think it's overall the best play here, as that shouldn't put me in range of a Rocky Helmet or anything like that. But okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch into my Mega Lopunny, as he actually reveals the Z Crystal, revealing the Gigavolt Havoc of his own, and that's going to do a ton to my Mega Lopunny. So what this means is now my Mega Lopunny is in range of Rocks plus Rocky Helmet damage, which is not great, as I am kind of expecting to potentially see Rocky Helmet on this Cofagrigus, if not Rocky Helmet on something like his Zygarde, which would be kind of weird. Definitely more likely to see it on the Cough, but even so, that damage is pretty scary. That said, it's also nice that I was able to maintain my Mandibuzz, considering how strong of a win condition I really do think it is potentially later in the game. As now, I'm going to just fire off a Return as I Mega Evolve, and he goes straight into his Cofagrigus, but that's not the worst thing in the world, because what this means is that I'm in a position now, I'm going to go and reveal the Rocky Helmet, I'm in a position now where I can make a play here. So I think that if he has a move on Cofagrigus to knock out my Mega Lopunny, he will not click it here. He has no reason to click it here, because if I attack him with Ice Punch or anything, I will die to Rocky Helmet. His best play is to go for something like a Shadow Ball. His best play is, or besides going for Shadow Ball, maybe expecting my switch into, I don't know, my Mandibuzz. I don't know, it's not really a great play expecting the Mandibuzz. He might even go for like a Wisp or a Toxic or something, I don't know. But there's also a potential that he might double here, expecting me to go into my Mandibuzz, as that might be overall his better play if he doesn't have something like Toxic or Will-O-Wisp to hit the incoming Mandibuzz. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to stay in and click Return again, as what that does is that means I still don't take the Rocky Helmet damage because of the fact that I no longer have my Scrabby. And if he doesn't have a way to hit me, that means that I'm safe. I don't have to switch, because he can't hit me. I can't hit him. I have Encore. So if he goes for anything else, I can just Encore him into it and maybe PP stall out his Shadow Balls a little bit, giving me an easier time with other things on my team later on. So that's kind of my thought process here at this point. And if I can stall this thing out of Shadow Balls, that means that I actually have a pretty good chance to do some more damage with things like my Nidoking later in the game, as I'll be able to hard switch Nidoking into Cough every single time and offensively pressure his team that way as well. So that's the game plan here looking into it, and now I'm going to go ahead and click that Return as he pulls a double into Roserade, expecting probably the Mandibuzz, and takes 87 from Adamant Return. So that's huge, as now I'm going to fire off another Return as he goes back into his Cofagrigus, and at this point he probably thinks I'm basically forced out, but I'm just going to click Return again just to see if he locks himself into something that I can Encore, and he goes for the Shadow Ball. So now we click that Encore button and he's stuck using Shadow Ball. So what I can do now is I can just force him to keep clicking Shadow Ball, or switch into Amon and take a bunch from Adamant Return. So I'm in a really good position at this point. I'm just going to keep clicking Return. I will skip a few turns here, as it does get very repetitive, and eventually what's going to happen here is I try to be a good guy. I say in the chat, hey, you want to just speed this up? I'm going to stall you out of Shadow Balls. And he said, yeah, let's just speed this up. He agreed that, okay, I'm going to stall him out of Shadow Balls. He'll just keep clicking Shadow Ball. I'll keep clicking Return, and we'll be good. That said, in a few turns here, he kind of changes his mind. So I guess I was a little too trusting of my opponent, but it's not the worst thing in the world. All it really does is mean that my Nidoking isn't super free to switch into this later on, but it does kind of suck. I probably should have just gone with my gut and continued Uncoring and returning, but you know what? I was a nice guy. What can you do? He does switch up the moves here and goes for Haze, and I Encore him into that, knowing that's a non-damaging move again. Unfortunately, he has a lot of PP of that. I'm not going to be able to stall him out of those, but this does mean I can go straight into my Ferrothorn and essentially net a free kill on the incoming Roserade, as Stealth Rocks or Spikes, very, very, very obvious. I'm just clicking Power Whip, and down goes the Roserade here, trying to get in before the Hazard. So off to a nice 6-5 advantages. Now he's going to go hard into his Mute. Expecting him to go for the Fire Blast. I am going to go straight into my Gothitelle, knowing I can shoot anything, and if he is not a Roost variant, which based upon the most likely coverage he has, I don't think he has Roost. I think his coverage is going to be something like Thunderbolt, Fire Blast, and Psychic, as well as Stealth Rock, as he does. I do think he needs something like Psychic against my team to help him deal with Mega Lopunny, as well as to help him deal with potentially Nidoking, maybe a bulkier Nidoking he does need Psychic for, and I'm trying to think of other things on my team he might want Psychic for. Nothing else is coming to mind off the top of my head that I was really thinking he would have Psychic Stab against me, so I do expect him to not have Recovery. I'm going to go hard in my Gothitelle, and I can start spamming Foul Play, as he is forced to continue going for Fire Blast versus me, and I will be able to take him out with the second Foul Play. So we are off to a nice 6-4 advantage, looking pretty good, looking pretty good. He goes into Thundurus, and now it gets a little bit tricky, okay? Because if you look through my team, as I mentioned before in the team builder, my responses to Thundurus are fairly limited. I do have the Ferrothorn, which is at a high amount of health. I also have the Gothitelle, which can trap this Thundurus once it is in range. That said, it is not yet in range of Psychic, and my Mega Lopunny will die to Stealth Rock. So that's where the Gigavolt Havoc really comes into play here. If it wasn't Gigavolt Havoc, then my Lopunny would essentially still have more oomph left in it. I would be able to use Mega Lopunny to help check this thing instead of letting my Ferrothorn get weakened in the process of weakening the Thundurus into range of my Gothitelle's Psychic. So it's a very tricky situation now, because when Ferrothorn gets weakened, I become very vulnerable to Zygarde, and that could essentially be GG if I am not able to pull this off well. But that said, because Mega Lopunny is so weakened, I have to essentially bank on the fact that he is Choice Locked or doesn't have Psychic to hit my Nidoking. And if that's the case, my best play is to go hard into Nidoking here, expecting him to go for an HP Ice. Expecting him to go for an HP Ice to hit a potential incoming Thunder. So that's what I'm going to do here as I go into my Nidoking. And, or not exactly expecting him to go for HP Ice, but he does actually have HP Flying, so I guess he was expecting me to go straight into my Ferrothorn, potentially. I guess that was just a safe middle ground play. It hits my entire team hard, bar the Thundurus, so even so, it worked out pretty well for him, as he is actually going to also have the Psychic and take me out. So, I'm going to lose my Nidoking here, also kind of hoping to bluff a Choice Scarf on my Nidoking, as Scarf Nidoking, while it doesn't make the most sense in the matchup, it's not bad against him at all, and if it was Choice Scarf and was able to remove the Thundurus, then I actually had a very, very good chance to win this game at this point. But unfortunately, I am not Choice Scarf, and I will lose my Nidoking here, as now I'm going to go hard into my Ferrothorn, because I'm kind of forced to. He almost certainly has Incinerate, and he does. He's going to do a lot of damage to me. My Aqua Berry does help a little bit, but not really enough to where I feel comfortable. I was hoping to get a little bit of a lower roll on that, as with the lower roll, I actually might have been outside of range of plus 1,000 arrows from the Zygarde, but at the moment, it's looking very, very scary for the Zygarde in the future, as I have to essentially hope that it's Choice Banded, and if it is Choice Banded, I can obviously do some damage to it with my Thundurus here, as I can threaten him out. But if he is Dragon Dance, I'm probably going to lose at this point, despite the fact that I'm up right now. This Zygarde is looking very, very scary, but I do have to go ahead and sack off my Lopunny here, go into my Gothitelle and trap this thing. Unfortunately, I don't have something like HP Ice. In hindsight, that might have been good prep to have, but I am forced to go for the Psychic here and take out the Thundurus, as now he can go straight into his Zygarde, click that Dragon Dance button. Honestly, click it twice and he wins the game guaranteed, but he actually decides to only click Dragon Dance once here. So he is Dragon Dance. Unfortunately, he was not Choice Banded. I needed him to be Choice Banded to have a not guaranteed, but a much better chance to win this game. He does go for the Dragon Dance, but what that Psychic does is that puts him in range of a critical hit Psychic. So if I do manage to crit a second Psychic as he goes for a second Dragon Dance, then I do win the game, I think guaranteed, or very, very close to guaranteed at that point, because of the Mandibuzz essentially beating the rest of his team and still having Ferrothorn super healthy to help deal with the really both the Mons left on his team. So I am going to go for the Psychic here, as he does just go for the 1,000 arrows. So he doesn't go for the guaranteed win, quote-unquote, minus the critical hit, which is nice. It gives me a chance here. So I'm going to be able to go hard into my Ferrothorn. And now, my best play is to click Leech Seed, because due to the calc on this, I have a small chance of surviving a plus 1,000 arrows. I am not guaranteed to die to Adamant Zygarde, but I do have a very small chance to live. And let's just go ahead and see. We do survive on 1%, but we miss the Leech Seed. So, that happened. Good news is, good guy Zazo said, hey, go ahead and go for Leech Seed again. I'll go for Toxic. It's fine. This will give you a chance at least. So he goes for Toxic, and I go for the Leech Seed. So we do get the Leech Seed off this time. Good guy Zazo. Thank you. Now here, my best play by far is to go for Protect. So I'm going to go for Protect, as he goes for another 1,000 arrows. Now here, I can go for a double Protect, or I can go straight into my Thundurus, because Thundurus is not winning the game at this point with the Cofagrigus still having all of his, or some Shadow Balls remaining. If I was able to stall him out of Shadow Balls, this might not have been my best play. I actually could have won with Thundurus, but because of being good guy Jolt earlier in the game, we have that situation that came up, but I guess it is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and sack my Thundurus here, because I'm not quite willing to risk the double Protect quite yet, although even later when I bring it back in, I'm probably going to have to land a double Protect anyways, but it is what it is. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and sack off my Thundurus to the 1,000 arrows. Such a broken move, seriously. But I'm going to go back into my Ferrothorn now, click the obvious Protect again. If he just DDs up again, he wins guaranteed, but he wasn't going to bank on my Choke. And he just goes for 1,000 arrows again. I think I'm barely in range. I think it's just a roll. It's always a roll with these 1,000 arrows when I'm at about 34%, but I do manage to land the double Protect, and then I land a triple Protect, and down goes the Zygarde. So now I actually have a chance to win this game. I land a triple Protect, and what do you know? We're back in this. So now he's going to go hard into his Snorlax. My best play is to go for a Leech Seed here, as he does go for the Fire Punch, and I live on 1%. This Ferrothorn is ridiculously well trained, so now I'm going to be able to go straight for a second Leech Seed, because his best play is to double into the Cofagrigus, knowing that his Snorlax is easily his win condition, and I'm gaining way too much health back from the Leech Seed. Now here, because I land the Leech Seed on the incoming Cofagrigus, what I can do is go straight into my Mandibuzz, or first Protect, and then go straight into my Mandibuzz, as what that'll do is that will net me a 100% free sub. And we're coming down to the point where I actually have a chance of winning this game with Mandibuzz plus Ferrothorn. It's very, very close. It's going to come down to the wire. Going to my Mandibuzz, he actually hits the Shadow Ball and gets a Spadef Drop, but fortunately he doesn't have any other coverage to hit Mandibuzz, so I will be able to sub down on this for free. And at this point, I'm thinking, wait, I actually have a chance here. I can definitely win this game. This Snorlax might end up being in range when all is said and done, as I can go straight for the Nasty Plot here. He does not go for Haze. If he went for Haze, that might have been a slightly stronger play on his part, but even so, I guess he made the right play here. He needed to break my substitute, considering what his last item was, which you'll see. He needed to break my substitute as I go for the Dark Pulse. Now, this was the play that might make a difference in the game here. I'll come back to it, I guess, after the last couple turns play out, but remember this turn. I go for Dark Pulse here, taking out the Cofagrigus, instead of going for another sub. Now, I made that play because he had already revealed to have Haze on Cofagrigus, and if I go for sub again as he goes for Haze, what's going to happen, potentially, is that I take him out with a Dark Pulse on the following turn. Or rather, so he would Suicide Haze, so I would be behind a sub at very low health without any sort of boost as the Cofagrigus goes down to Leech Seed. That's what would have happened if I went for a sub on that turn instead of taking him out with Dark Pulse. Now what happens then, the Snorlax is currently at 75%. So Snorlax comes in and is able to break my sub with any one attack, as I go for something like a Nasty Plot on the turn behind the sub. And in that case, what happens is the Snorlax is then able to chew up any hit from my Mandibuzz, and then take me out with the following attack, assuming I don't get a flinch. So in that case, there's a scenario of having one chance to flinch and potentially stopping the Snorlax from going for a Resto Chesto or something like that. So there's a lot. Okay, I probably should talk through the next couple turns before I go into this, because there's a lot of scenarios here. There's two primary scenarios that definitely are possibilities here. But, you know, I'm just going to go into the battle here and show you the end of this before I talk about it. So here, I do just go for the Dark Pulse. If I get the flinch, I guaranteed win 100%, as he actually goes for the return and takes me out. Now here, I go into my Ferrothorn. Now, If he is Resto Chesto, his best play is to rest. If he is Custat Berry, his best play is to kill me with Fire Punch. If he is Curselax, his best play is probably to rest and then curse. So right here, it's basically a 50-50. Is he going to be an offensive Snorlax with Custat Berry, or just something that can kill me on this turn? Or is he going to be a more defensive Snorlax like he was in the first matchup and have Resto Chesto and be able to heal up all the damage and then kill me on the following turn with Fire Punch and win the game? This is 100% a 50-50 on the last turn of the game to decide round 1 of the NPL playoffs. If I go for a Power Whip and he is Custat Berry, I lose. If I go for the Power Whip and he is Resto Chesto, I probably win. Maybe. It'll be really close. I think I would win. Let's see, if he has Resto Chesto, and I go for Power Whip, then it'll come down to how much my Power Whip is actually doing to him in that case. But because, so it's one or the other, basically. One or the other, and it will determine the game. If I go for Protect and he's Custat Berry, I'll win based upon that. If I don't go for Protect, I go for an attack and he's Custat Berry, I lose. So let's go ahead and look at this as he actually is the Custat Berry, as I go for the Power Whip, and he takes me out with a Fire Punch, and I lose the game. So, we were close. We were definitely close. Ferrothorn almost single-handedly brought this whole game back, along with Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz did a pretty good job with that Nasty Plot set, but just to back up a little bit to the turn in question. So, there was a little bit of discrepancy over what the best play was here on this last turn. As I was at +2, I could have subbed down on the Cofagrigus, and essentially the argument that some people are making is that if I was able to go for a substitute here on the Mandibuzz on this turn, as the Cofagrigus most likely would Suicide Haze, I feel like that'd be by far his best play. Then, like I said before, like I was trying to say before, but a little bit too early because it probably didn't make much sense at that point, what he'd be able to do is go hard into his Snorlax, which was still at 75% at the time. He could break my substitute as I either go for a Dark Pulse going for a flinch, or I have to go for a Nasty Plot again behind the sub and then try to flinch him once on the following turn before the Snorlax takes me out. Being the Custat set, I would have to get a flinch with Mandibuzz in order to essentially force the Snorlax to burn his Custat Berry on the Mandibuzz before my Ferrothorn comes in. As if he did have to burn his Custat Berry on the Mandibuzz before Ferrothorn came in, then Ferrothorn would win the game 100% due to Power Whip plus Iron Barb's damage. So that's one scenario. I believe either route that I took there at the end would have ended the same way, and that I would need to get a flinch with Mandibuzz versus the Snorlax to make sure that he wasn't able to use his Custat Berry against my Ferrothorn. So I do think that's the proper reasoning on that. I know a lot of you who are watching this video were there when the battle actually happened as well, and if you want to maybe go into more depth as to why you think there might have been a different play in that situation, I'd be happy to look at what you have to say on that, but I'm pretty convinced that regardless of what I did here on this turn 55, it would have ended up the same way, needing a flinch to ensure the Custat was burned versus my Mandibuzz instead of against my Ferrothorn. That said, it still just came down to a 50-50 here with Custat versus Resto Chesto. Very tricky match. Very, very tricky endgame here. In hindsight, I obviously wish I would have protected, because thinking about it more, essentially if he is Resto Chesto and I go for a Power Whip, then if the Power Whip doesn't do... Yeah, if the Power Whip doesn't do close to half, then the Resto Chesto Snorlax would still be able to beat me 1v1. But essentially... So yeah, if the Power Whip does less than 39%, yeah, if the Power Whip does less than 39% on average, he'd be able to Resto Chesto and win anyways. But I was banking under the assumption that if he was more of a max HP Snorlax with minimal defense investment, then I could potentially take him out with the Power Whip here and win the game like that. So it was just a very tricky endgame. A little bit tricky to articulate as well, so sorry if that's pretty confusing on what I'm trying to say on that. But regardless, we lost this game. Very, very close, but a fun way to open up the playoffs here in NPL Season 6. So thanks for watching, guys. Unfortunately, the Toronto Raptors season does end in defeat here in the playoffs against Iron Flash Gaming, but of course, best of luck to my opponent in round 2 as he takes on the winner of Togevoir versus Matty Brawlick. I will not spoil the result of that battle, but definitely make sure to check out those uploads as well on both coaches' channels. But that's about all I have to say. So thanks again for watching, guys. It's been a tough ride this season. Not my favorite draft I've ever had, but it was... I got to use some pretty fun mons for sure. I really did enjoy using the team after I made the trade, getting Gothitelle and Thundy T. I wish I had this exact mold of the team going through the whole season, as Thundy T really, and Gothitelle, adds such a huge dynamic to this team that makes it way better. Just having ways to deal with Azumaril's counters as well as Megalopunny's counters, as well as even Nidoking's counters. Gothitelle's really, really nice for those. And yeah, it was a fun team to use. Kind of sad to see the season for me come to an end, but also excited to see how the rest of the playoffs unfolds. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next time. Peace.